Hello students, nice meeting you here through this medium. Technology has helped me to connect with you. Today I brought something that I would have taught during my tutorials. I wanted to teach you about principles of business correspondence, which I touched in the class, but I had not made you practice them. And so I have brought this little video for you. So hope this will be beneficial for you. In the safe confines of your home, you can go through that at leisure. So this is a lecture on principles of business correspondence, and let us start talking about these principles. Basically, we are talking of 7 principles, or what we call 7 C's of formal or business letters, and they apply to most of the writing work that we do, whether it's report writing, letter writing, but mainly when you are corresponding during your business. And let us start with clarity. So you have clarity, conciseness, courtesy, consideration, completeness, correctness, and concreteness. So let us start with clarity. When you start with your letter, always be clear with your words and what you intend to communicate to your reader. And use simple words. For example, I have perused your letter and gone through the contents is not as good as I have read your letter, plain and simple. Okay, I can give you many more examples like that. Like you can say, I visualized this vision. If you say this, much better would be when you say, I saw this dream or I saw this vision, because visualize is a difficult or a more complex word compared to see. So the simpler option is always better when you're writing. You should be using short sentences as well. When you're using short sentences, like for example, when you're using long sentences, long, involved, convoluted, complex sentences, like if you could see, it is evident that the institution's request for documenting the attendance of students has become rather important in as much as this demand is prioritized in our principal's most recent notice. That's quite a mouthful. A simpler way of writing this, a shorter and a better way would be, as mentioned by our principal in his recent notice, we need to give priority to the attendance record of the students. Similarly, my dear students, you should be, or rather we should be, avoiding wordiness or excessive words when you are writing a formal letter, especially if those words have no meaning, or rather they are not adding any value to your letter. Now, instead of, in spite of the fact that the coronavirus is dangerous and at the present moment creating havoc in the world, some people are casual about social distancing. We could say a simpler, a less wordy way, though the coronavirus is dangerous and is now creating havoc in the world, some people are casual about social distancing. So we have removed in spite of the fact that, and at the present moment, both were not necessary there, and it was increasing the verbosity, or what you call the excessive words or the wordiness of the passage. To make your letters more clear, you should also be avoiding ambiguity. Now, what is ambiguity? Ambiguity is using words that can have several different meanings and connotations, or it can confuse the reader as to what actually the writer wants to indicate. So, now let us take this example. We are a leading company among many companies in this part of the world. Now, which company? What company? So, the better way would be, we hold the #1 position among 200 software companies in Asia. So, when you say leading company, it can confuse your reader, and who may be wondering where you actually stand. Like suppose you say, I'm a topper in the class, but when you give your precise pointer, we come to know where you stand. So, there is less confusables, there are less doubts here. So, we have to follow this when we are writing our letters. Now, another way of making your letters clear is to avoid jargon. Now, jargon, you are already familiar with this word when we talked about barriers to communication, language barriers. Yes. So, actually, it is a technical term which is specific to a field. So, if you are a literature student, you would be hearing words like epiphany and juxtaposition and so on, which we may not be using in daily life. Okay. So, even engineering students may be using a lot of jargon that is pertinent to what they're studying, but you can't use the same for everyone because they may not understand this. So, like for example, let me take an example from the teaching field or the teaching domain. The pedagogical objectives are outcome based. Now, a simpler way without the jargon would be the teaching objectives are result oriented, so that people can understand this and the message becomes very clear. So, when you're writing letters, this is very important to avoid jargon. Now, the next principle, very important, and we take it along with clarity, is that your letters should be precise. So, your ability to use short, precise, simple information, that is conciseness. So, it goes hand in hand with clarity. So, they make your letters effective. Now, to take it further, let us avoid redundancies. Now, what are redundancies? You will see that we use unnecessary words, repetitions, saying the same thing in different ways, but without adding any value to the meaning of the content. Now, this can happen when we are speaking, and it can be quite, useful and impactful, but writing is a different thing altogether. You have to be more disciplined and be very concise, precise, to the point, so that there is no waste of words and your reader gets the message clearly. So, now I'll give you an example. We will not be in a position to repeat the rules and regulations of the competition again and again to participants who are late. Now, if you see that, I have emphasized repeat and again, which means the same thing. So, why not remove it and just simply say, we will not repeat the rules and regulations of this competition once the program starts. So, that is more precise, concise, and we are saying the same thing without those extra words. And now we come to a very important principle, principles. Again, I've taken them together because there's a slight overlapping there. It is courtesy and consideration. Now, you have to be courteous, and when you say courteous, it is to be polite and respectful to the recipient of your letter. Yes, even if you're writing a complaint, you don't have to use abusive words or be rude to your recipient, okay? And you should be showing concern and care for the feelings and needs of the reader. So, even if you're complaining, as I said, you can't say, how dare you do this to me? I'm a very important consumer. You should go to hell. Now, all these types of feelings might be in our mind, but we can't put it in our letter and, sound like that. It is not done. So, we should be having a kind attitude that can result in the creation of goodwill and strong bonds in your business careers. So, why is this important? Because courtesy and consideration is what makes us civilized and can actually get better outcome than being rude and unconcerned about the welfare of others. So, let us take a few examples. First is avoid negative messages. Now, everybody gets put off with a no, say, no, we can't do it. No, hum nahi help kar sakte. We cannot help you. Now, instead you could be better. You could say, ma'am, I would have helped you, but this is the problem. So, you should be putting it in a positive way. Now, I'll give you an example which is there on your screens. Your application for the post of purchase manager cannot be considered by our company. Now, how rude and how harsh and how hurtful this sounds, especially if you're a young person looking for a job. So, a better way would be, thank you for your application dated dash for the post of dash in our company. We are sorry that we are not able to offer you this position at present. However, we have filed your application for future use. Whenever an opportunity arises, we shall consider your application. This is much better, and at least the one who is rejected, the applicant, will not feel absolutely useless. Okay, so ultimately the feelings matter because communication happens between human beings. It's not just language, but it's how you use the language. And so avoid negativity, be more positive. And now a very important concept comes up, and that is you attitude, which is part of being considerate to your recipient. So you have to be empathetic. Now, many times in the class, when we have met in person, I've told you what is empathy. It is to put yourself in the other person's shoes. So you should be aware of what the reader might be feeling when he receives your letter. With the kind of contents it may contain. If it's a rejection letter, as I gave in the previous example, or it could be simply, talking about delayed goods that he might have ordered and you're not able to deliver. Either way, you should be putting yourself in the reader's shoes, and so putting his needs first, putting the reader's needs first. So focus on the reader's needs, purposes and interests instead of your own. Okay. So even if you have to talk about yourself, do so by linking or relating it to the requirements of the reader. And now let us continue. I'll give you an example here. We are happy to receive your order for the X brand of laptops from our firm. Okay. Now this sentence is innocuous, quite simple if you look at it, and nothing wrong with it. But to make the reader the center, the focus, it would be better if you say, thank you for your order for X brand of laptops from our firm. So you're actually thanking him for placing an order as well. So it's not just you, it is him, the reader. So when you're saying you, it means the reader. And now more examples. Like for example, if you cannot do something and you say, we regret that the goods did not reach on time. This is so impersonal and there is no feelings there. But you could say the better way would be, we regret that you did not receive your goods in time. So you did not receive the goods in time. So it's the you attitude here again. Now more examples. Like for example, we are pleased to announce a new insurance scheme. Could be better when you say, now you can avail our new insurance scheme. Now instead of we offer 3 types of fabric, you could say you may choose from 3 types of fabric. So here again the recipient feels that he is the focus or she is the focus of your intention. The letter is meant for that person and that person feels valued. Now there are some exceptions for you attitude, because there may be questions in your mind like how to be, how to use you attitude. Should we not use you attitude to say in a complaint letter? You're right, we shouldn't be, because then we would be accusing that person and saying you have not done this, you have not done. So this is an exception, especially when the recipient might have made a mistake. So here you're not supposed to be accusing. So you have to avoid being personal and you should choose impersonal words here. So instead of you did not send us the detailed information, where you have used active voice and you can see the tone is very accusing, you should be saying detailed information was not sent to us, and here you are using passive voice and you're not accusing but you're stating a fact. This is very important so that you're not offending the recipient. Yes, but you have made that point that information was not sent to you. Now we go to the next part, and that is correctness. When you're talking of correctness, we are actually referring to accuracy, and you have to be accurate when you're using certain words. Like for example, in the format itself, you have to be correct in the usage of your format. Let it not be a wrong format, or you're using yours affectionately instead of yours sincerely or faithfully, or you have simply written, dear something, when you're not to do it. So your format should be correct, the style should be correct, you should be grammatically accurate, your tenses, your prepositions, the use of capital letters, and so on, articles, spellings, punctuations, okay. And now facts and figures, very important. You can't say 20,000 when actually meant 2,000. And of course the tone. The tone should be